2003 Universe release of Tankor came in a 2-pack. If you were looking for one of these bots, you were likely to get stuck with the other. And that would be fine if the bot that I got stuck with wasn't Obsidian. His helicopter mode? Rad as hell, but that robot mode, man. Just look at the absolute state of him. Yeah, I know, it's a really damn hard thing to turn this show model into a physical, functioning Transformers toy, but this isn't for me. I'm happy I'm not obligated to own one. I bet you didn't see this one coming. I know I didn't. So, yep, today we're going to be taking a look at the other half of that Universe 2-pack, the counterpoint to my beloved Mega Tankor, Obsidian. So, actually I'm pretty sure all of my videos up until this point have been gleaming, positive reviews of whatever bot I'm bringing down to point my camera at. Very rarely do I entirely dislike the bot that I'm reviewing. I think that's a symptom of all of the bots that I'm reviewing being pulled from my own collection. Shocker, I'm going to buy stuff that I think I'm going to like, and if not, I've probably already sold it. Today is pretty different though, as this is the first video I'm doing with a figure that I've gotten on loan from somebody. My buddy Daniel has loaned me his copy of Obsidian so I could do a follow-up to my Tankor video. This bot isn't part of my personal collection, which means he doesn't get the benefit of me already liking him. In fact, from what I know of this bot, as you've seen, I'm pretty confident that I do not and will not like him. But my previous opinions were all based on online photos of this dude. You know, now that I've actually got one in hand, I'm forced into a proper, critical analysis of old Obsidian here. Maybe I'll have my assumptions that he's this ugly little shit ghoul get challenged, or maybe I'll just affirm all of my existing feelings on this weirdo. Let's get into it and find out. So, we're gonna start in what I think is easily the better of the two modes, his helicopter mode. Obsidian turns into a mean, future, osprey-ish helicopter. Much like his pack-in mate Tankor, this alt mode is just ferocious and armed to the teeth. At the very front here is Obsidian's bright red cockpit. It's got kind of a rat vibe to it, you know, like it really does look like a big, goony rat head. I don't get what it was with Beast Machine's bots and having big, mechanical faces in the alt modes, but this one blends in pretty good to the rest of the copter. Unless, of course, you don't want it to, and decide to pull it out to have the helicopter look around. That's actually kind of a neat feature, considering this is a separate assembly from the robot mode head. Under it is this tiny, dingly machine gun, which feels kind of redundant when you see that it's bookended by these big packs of rockets on the left and right side under the wings. Above the rockets are two more nuke-sized missiles, or maybe there's some searchlights. They're sort of indistinct. All of these parts are also the only hits of yellow on the whole thing. The rest is this deep, purpley blue, which has also been smattered with that all too familiar purple and silver scarring that we saw on Tankor. The top wing sections also have some great jet-type detailing on it, and if we follow them to the ends, they house these extravagant, eye-catching helicopter blades. They're cast in this rich, cherry sucker red, and are on a hinge, so they can move forward if he really needs to pick up some speed. The rotors also launch? Excuse me? They're on those kind of crap friction push firing, I don't know, I hesitate to call it a mechanism, but yeah, the heli blades can be launched at Obsidian's foes. To which I have to assume after they've fired, Obsidian just comes barreling to the ground in a horrid crash landing? I just can't understand why this dude thinks his best offensive move is the one where he ejects the only thing keeping him in the air. Dude, you have rockets, use those. I'm taking off points for that. If they really wanted a gimmick up here by the rotor blades, I would have loved to see one where, I don't know, maybe like they rotor spin, not unlike Tankor's saw blade gimmick. The rear end of the copter closes off our look at the alt mode with its pretty neutral, gray... what is this part of a helicopter called? Anybody by the tail boom? The gray tail boom. It's got a little more of that tasty red plastic on the tail dice? Dice? All things considered, I quite like the look of Obsidian's alt mode, but there really isn't anything terribly interesting going on with it. His one gimmick barely works physically, and doesn't work at all conceptually. I really wish there was more going on here. After Tankor, this feels pretty damn bland. Which some might say is an unfair comparison, but I don't think so. They came packed in the same box. It's only fair to compare the two. Obsidian's transformation is wicked quick, mainly because there's not a lot to do, and it's almost all done for you. Grab this dude's ass and give it a yank. When you pull the back end of the helicopter down, the head and chest will mosey into their robot mode spots all on their own. It's not a bad auto transformation, but it feels a little strange since you have to manually do some of the finishing touches, such as splitting the legs and folding the arms out. Splitting the legs is, I suppose, an optional step, since in media, Obsidian had a single giant hornet tail, but for today's review, I'm going to do what the back of the box and the instructions tell me. We're gonna give this guy 2 legs, just like Primus never intended. Yikes. Yep, no, still haven't come around on this design. And look, I'm not opposed to weird, obtuse robot mode designs. Studio Series Overload is amazing, and I love the weird, creepy vibes that someone like Transmutate throws off. But you know, there's a lot of bots who are, ugly, but still have a super interesting and engaging design. Obsidian here kinda just lands at normal ugly. Like, visually unappealing ugly. Let's, start unpacking what we're looking at here. So, yeah, those legs, which we've decided to split, are just these weird pencil strut things holding up his dad bod. I still can't figure out what configuration his feet are supposed to have. Between the landing gear and the fins flopping either direction, there's a few different configurations, but geez, none of them look quite right. It's also kind of hard to not make note of the unfortunate position that his machine gun lands in robot mode. Moving on, his torso is... it's just the wrong shape. Like, it's all hanging down here. It feels like there should be another hinge to move it back up here, as you can see in my high-tech diagram here. Instead, it's all just hanging down like a big old trucker gut. His chest itself, well, there isn't one. There's a lovely cutout where a chest should be, but instead we're just left with this big, ugly hinge. Now, credit where credit is due. The head is on this hinge and ball joint assembly that gives it some really great movement, and I'm actually digging his head design. It's kind of hard to explain, but it feels very befitting of his Osprey alt mode. It's long and creepy and has this vent mouth, which actually gets picked out with paint. It's a very teeny tiny head, so I'm happy to see it get the detail work here. The arms also get away with some pretty decent articulation, thanks to the ball joint shoulders and his elbows having ball joints as well as the transformation hinges. Lots of movement going on there. It's a shame then that he doesn't really get any hands at the ends of those arms. In the show, he had these creepy tendrily digits that would pop out of the missiles, and I mean, I guess I can understand why we don't have that on a physical toy, but I would have liked to see anything here. Despite all that, these actually don't bug me a ton. I'm not sure what a guy like Obsidian would even need hands for. In the series, I think he was more of a mass-produced weapons drone, so it actually checks out that he would just have guns instead of grippers. The back is the top of the helicopter, and I suppose those firing propeller blades make marginally more sense when he's in robot mode, since he's already on the ground. But like, where are you gonna get a new set of those once you fired him, dude? What, are you gonna just walk back to the base now because you compromised your entire alt mode in hopes of landing a single shot on some rando? You literally gave up your right to having normal hands to have rocket launchers. Just use those. Save yourself the walk. After having one in my life for a few days here, I'm pretty confident when I say that, yeah, I don't feel the need to go out and hunt down my own Obsidian, or any version of this mold. Design is a very, very subjective thing, and considering that this bot doesn't really have much for gimmicks, most of his appeal lands on his design. And shit, I bet there's a good pile of people who actually really dig how this dude looks. But unfortunately, he's doing nothing that I find appealing. And it really doesn't help that that bar of quality he's struggling to meet is brought that much higher by his boxmate Tankor, who felt incredibly featured and had a robot mode with some serious visual impact. Obsidian's an easy pass for me, but I'm still grateful I got to handle one so I could appreciate the weird dichotomy of quality between this 2-pack. Obsidian is going to be returned back to his rightful owner and be Daniel's problem again at the end of the week. But until then, I'm gonna keep him right here. Perfect. As always, thank you for tuning in to another episode of ROMP, everybody, where this week the R apparently stands for roast. Take care. See you next week.